Hey everyone, it's me, Arthur Kade, and I'm joined by supermodel Emme, who is promoting her new book. It's called Curvy Confident, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and she's talking all about how body image can help us succeed. Check it out. Hey everyone, it's me, Arthur Kade. Extremely excited to be joined by today's guest, supermodel Emme. You've got this great book, obviously Chicken Soup. We were all raised on this. Let me give it to the camera. Chicken Soup for the Soul. You're touching upon something that is extremely important right now, body image.
Glad you feel that way.
I do feel that way. We should all feel good about ourselves.
Don't you think?
Right, like we should all feel good about ourselves, and life is good, right?
Yes. Well, it's our choice to think life is good. We could be body bashing and feeling terrible about ourselves. But the Chicken Soup for the Soul, Curvy and Confident, every single story in there, and it was very hard to choose which story should stay in out of the thousands and thousands that were submitted. I mean, it was painful to cut a story.
It's fascinating because you and I were just talking. I mentioned the drinking because we were talking about our favorite drinks before we got started. I'm a Tito's and Club guy, and we were talking about how gluten-free drinking.
I'm a Tito's and lemon on the rocks.
So after this interview, we'll be going out and drinking, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
It's incredible because I was just telling you, I know Ashley Graham. I've interviewed her multiple times over the last year, and it's wonderful to see how this movement that you are speaking to has intensified.
I absolutely think so. I think that the time for Ashley to blossom and to really carry the torch, there was a lot of work that was done by not only myself in the 90s, there was a bunch of women that we worked very hard, and then it went through a lull. And I think the zeitgeist and the social media and women at home, women in the industry, it was like almost a perfect storm, and then Ashley walked in and there she went. I really think that it was timing of the most important voice to be heard, and she is sweet and kind and compassionate, and I think it was touching on a real, true heartbeat of a moment, with women just being sick and tired, and men being sick and tired of not feeling happy and content and confident.
It was funny because you go, do I ever feel body conscious? And I'm like,
I did ask you that.
I'm like, are you
because
kidding
guys
me?
do.
I literally was like, I did 25 miles of cardio this week and I feel bloated right now.
Oh dear God. No, you know, it's a real big story, and we have a couple of gents that are in the book, and men are silent sufferers. And we find that with women, we can sit and chit-chat and talk and heal each other by our stories. And we sit there and think, oh, I'm not so alone. But with men, it's very, very hard for them to communicate about their bodies. That, you know, a lot of men think that other men, oh, I'm sexy, I'm big and trim, and whatever it is that's really hot and cool. But a lot of men really do feel very, very self-conscious. And there's no reason to. You're so handsome and wow, you're so in shape.
So I'd like to announce Emme as my permanent co-host after this last conversation.
Wow. But it's you. It's okay. So what do you do to make yourself feel better? What do you do?
Who said I ever feel better? No, I'm kidding.
Okay, I'm going to give you my number, and seriously, I want you to call me. Because
no, I have very thick skin, and to be in our business, you have to have very thick skin.
You
but
do.
There are a lot of people out there who do not have thick skin. And you know, we talk about what you did in the 90s, but there was no social media. There was no internet. Now, if you're a celebrity, you are diagnosed and eviscerated 24/7.
Yes.
How difficult is that, do you think?
I think it's very, very difficult. I think it's a very, very tough magnifying glass to be looked through, you know, and I think to be the point of that scrutiny day in and day out. One point of view is to say, screw it, and just walk out makeupless, hair, you know, without your hair done, and just live. And then when the time is to be on the red carpet, you could just do all the little glam thing and enjoy, and just live your life well. The best part of it. But studios then get involved, and then, you know, clients get involved and say, you know, I saw that zit that you had and you didn't cover it up. It's like, it's very, very hard for someone who is in the entertainment business to feel confident. But there's interesting stories within Curvy and Confident on where how everyday people, whether they've been challenged from being very, very thin and then life happens, something, they had to take medication, they got curvier, or curvier women going down and losing who they were when they were born to something very different. Our body image has so much to do with if we're going towards our goals and our dreams and staying on track with what life is supposed to give us. So these stories give you a little conundrum, and then it takes you to another place of feeling good.
How do you think you would have handled it had we lived in the internet and digital social media age in the 90s?
I certainly have, I think back, I put so many miles on airplanes. I mean, I'm a million miler, and like not only one, and the amount of radio satellite media tours that we did in the fishbowl with like 30 stations all at one time, it was really crazy. When I think back, a lot more within the women's movement probably would have moved forward if we had social media. Like, I look at it as the advantage. I love live stuff and thought that would be really, really wonderful. But it was like a little bit of a snail's pace. Even though I was really, really busy, it still didn't take hold until social media was able to go into every single home, every single hand, and women and men were able to vote if they really like that content or not. It's so powerful. It's negative, but it's more positive than negative.
It's
crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, I see Ashley as a great example. She was just on
takes
vacation.
It.
She doesn't just take it, she embraces it with 3 different hugs. It's incredible to see.
That's the way to do it.
She flaunts it.
That's the way to do it. Because if you're going to sit back and take every hater's comments about your cellulite or about your curves or, what life are they having? They're not having a fun life. They're not getting out and living. Ashley says, you better go live, you better have fun and take a look at what I'm doing, and you can do it too.
Were there moments, you're going through this, and obviously you probably have casting people, you probably have producers, you probably have people in the modeling industry saying, Emme, we need you to drop this many pounds, we need you to do this. Do you look at yourself and do you say, I'm not where I need to be right now? Or was there always this philosophy where it was like, I'm comfortable with who I am?
I've gone through my journey. So I've had contracts say that I needed to stay at a certain weight, and I was fighting that, but my agency was like, you have to have it. And I was like, okay, whatever, it didn't matter. But I internally have a maintenance ideal of how I feel at a certain weight or a certain shape or a certain size. And then if I kind of get beyond that, like if I have a jiggle instead of a wiggle, we can laugh about it.
There's the
but
name
it's
of your
the
memoir.
truth.
Jiggle instead of wiggle.
Yeah, no, wiggle.
It's
I
wiggle
don't want
instead
the
of
jiggle because, if I'm not working out often, and I'm not killing myself, but it's consistency. If I'm not eating really well, if I'm having too many Tito's, if I'm not balanced, then I get off kilter. And I don't feel well, and I don't have the energy to live the really confident and curvy life. I am never going to not be curvy. I'm always going to be curvy. So there are times that I have to kind of always be in touch and not just too much up here doing too many of the fantastic things where I'm not being real with myself, getting to the gym and doing my thing and being with my friends or being with family and being balanced. So yeah, there's times when you're really confident, and then there's other times you're like, okay, girl, you got to get it together. Yeah.
I was watching my beloved New York Giants last night get destroyed by the Green Bay Packers.
I know.
It
Do you
was
wear
I don't.
the jersey? Some of the guys do that, and I'm like, okay.
But I was around teenage girls running around the house.
Yeah.
And A, it made me realize I'm so not ready to be a father, but also B, they were talking about today's supermodels. Gigi Hadid, Bella Hadid, Kendall Jenner, the whole new crop of supermodels that's emerged.
In what way were they speaking about
They were
that?
talking about their bodies. And I found it fascinating because I knew you were coming in, and each girl was talking about how, and I'm looking at these girls, and they're like thin, they're in shape, and they're like, I need to lose another 10, 15 pounds.
How old are they?
Probably 15, 16. Is it too much pressure now when these girls, this generation, they're looking at the Gigis and the Bellas, and they feel like they have to lose 15 pounds, and they probably weigh all of 100 at that point.
But guess who they know too? They know Ashley. And they know Julie Henderson, and they know a bunch of really incredible people that are on the scene. There's more exposure to a diversified array of beauty. There's more actresses now that are beautiful arrays of beauty that are out there. They're not just the stick thin. So this generation knows more of the curvy models than when I was a curvy model, and the younger 15-year-olds had no idea at that time. So there is something really cool happening. My daughter's 15. A lot of her friends know a lot of the curvy models these days. And that, I think, exposure to difference and the aperture opening to healthier ideals is getting better and better. It's frightening that girls that are 15, 16 are only judging themselves through value through their bodies instead of the mind-body-spirit connection. And through Curvy and Confident stories, I will tell you, if a mom's having an issue or a daughter's having an issue, if they read just a couple of stories, you're going to go, gosh, I felt like that. Oh, that's a really cool story. I didn't know somebody else felt that way. So the cool thing is that you're not alone, all those 15-year-olds out there. A lot of girls feel the same way, but you don't have to stay in that position. Look at when you see other people, when they don't have, seriously, arms, legs, and they don't have the benefit of having a healthy body, that's when you start getting really into like what you have instead of what you don't have.
I'm completely in agreement with everything you've said.
Right.
But there are people out there who play devil's advocate.
Yes.
And they say, okay, Emme, I get it, but on the flip side, are you potentially advocating for an unhealthy lifestyle or for not taking care of yourself?
Not at all.
What about when people say, you know what, you should care about being that thin or being that crazy?
No, I don't agree.
Okay.
I don't agree at all, because we can't be like each other. There are women that are supposed to be thin. There are women that are supposed to be medium size, and there are women that are supposed to be curvier. Now, there's extremes on both ends. Anorexia is a really big issue. Obesity is another really big issue. We have to see that we are diversified, whether it's in texture of skin, in color, and shape. There's no way that we should be the same, or like the girls in the magazine. So it's really figuring out who you naturally are, and then digging into it and making it the best that it can be. So if you have curves and you look down the line and you see the ladies in your life and they're all with curves, well, you can take care of those curves and rock them and make them look awesome.
Was it difficult in the industry when you were first starting out?
Oh my God, it was horrible. It was horrible.
Give me some horror stories. We see the success, but what were some horror stories?
Oh my! Well, there's a couple stories in Curvy and Confident, and there's one that there was a few times, like, you just almost not. You just weren't invited to the party. You weren't getting paid enough, like the other girls that were doing exactly the same work, but those girls were sitting on the side smoking Marlboro Reds, not having lunch with us, and the girls were longingly looking at us while we were having lunch with everybody else and getting paid half. But they were the ones that were going, we would love to eat like you. You're so lucky that you get to work. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is so strange. I had a photographer say, I'm not going to shoot this fatty. I was like, I'm very, very athletic. So I almost wanted to tell him, come and do 20 push-ups with me because you're an idiot. But like 5 years later, I'm down in Miami, and he got all cleaned up and everything, and I was in People magazine a bunch of times, and I was making a name for myself. And he knew me through my name, not remembering that he really, really tormented me at this one shoot. And I said to him, you know, we've already shot together. He goes, oh, we should work together, we should work together. We already shot together. I said, by the way,
You're like a-hole.
you actually helped me in my career. And he goes, great, darling, we should definitely work together. And it taught me that bullies, it has nothing to do with the person, with the point of the bullying. It's the bullier that you've got to just go, I forgive you, but I'm not going to forget. So.
I love that. I love your message. I got to tell you. That's why everybody's got to just go get this book.
Oh, yay!
Go buy it. That's the point. There's so many great stories. So I looked through your story and a bunch of the other stories, and I was just like, this is great, because I hate what's happening. When I am in the company of these beautiful teenage girls, and they are worried.
What did you say to them?
Well, I kept quiet. I was crying from the Giants being obliterated.
Okay.
I was too busy in a depressive state.
Yeah.
I heard the conversation, and it just blew my mind because here are, again, 15, 16-year-old
They're
girls
beautiful.
who probably weigh 100 pounds. And they're like, yeah, I need to lose 15 pounds. And I'm like, where? But
Yeah.
and they're like, did you see Gigi look like this and Bella look like this? And even Gigi, who is right now the it model on the planet,
yes,
has lost probably 10 or 15. I mean, she's talked about how when she first started modeling, her and Yolanda, her mother, were getting the feedback that she's too big. She's too curvy.
That is just
and she felt like she had to lose weight. I don't know if she did or didn't, but
young girls that get involved in the industry. So I always say this to the parents: beware. You've got to be on every single set. You have to be in every single conversation if you're going to have your child get into this industry.
Did you have a stage mother or father?
No, I was 26. I was old. I was like a really old lady.
But in modeling years, that's like 82.
Ancient!
In modeling years, you're like Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Oh, thank you,
No,
Arthur.
I'm
I
kidding.
appreciate
I'm
it.
kidding.
No, but it's true. It's really true. So, you know, I came in, I was a reporter before that. So I was listening. And then I almost walked away from the industry because I said, this really sucks. It's a horrible industry, the whole thing. And then I was like, wait a minute, there's a real story here. And that's what made all the difference for me. I just started reporting from the inside.
How did your cerebral ability as a reporter aid you in terms of getting through the difficulties?
I really leaned on how atrocious things were. And I thought, let me just continue shedding light in this angle. No one's covering this. I think there's a real story of how millions of women were buying into a diet-related industry that had a 98% failure rate. And that didn't make any sense to me at all. And then I started digging more and looking in and unearthing research, and I thought, anytime I go on live TV, anytime, they can't cut it out. I can just say what I need to say. And I was getting booked over and over and over again because no one was really stopping, looking, and going, wait, these women are, remember the time period, 90s. That's when heroin chic was really in. Women were like walking.
Kate Moss was the queen.
It was unreal how thin those girls were. Now, sometimes I looked at sometimes I look at the runway still, and I'm going, geez Louise, they're 6 feet tall and they're size 0. You've seen the young ladies, those poor girls. You can't blame them. Their agents are pushing. A lot of girls are coming in from overseas where all the family members are living in one room.
Yep.
So they'll do anything to keep that job going.
Yep.
So anyway, there's a lot of work being done to try and get these young ladies help, getting the agents taught or exposed to some truths that are really within the eating disorder group, because you don't want to promote an industry for unhealthy beauty. And it doesn't mean that you have to be considered fat. You can have diverse beauty. And there is. Look, we're experiencing it right now. It's wonderful.
High five, you're awesome.
Thank you, dude.
Go buy her
Yay!
book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and it is curvy and confident. What a great picture of you, by the way. Look how gorgeous this lady is.